the early hours of May 13, 1862, an enslaved black man took control of a Confederate warship. He sailed it past 5 armed forts, including Fort Sumter. No alarms, no gunfire. By sunrise, he delivered the ship to the U.S. Navy and walked away a free man. But that escape was only the beginning, because this same man would go on to help rewrite a state constitution, serve 5 terms in Congress, and witness America erase nearly everything he helped build. This is not just a Civil War story, it's the story of Reconstruction and the betrayal that shaped America. That man was Robert Smalls. On the morning of May 13, 1862, Union sailors stood frozen in disbelief. The ship approaching them wasn't flying enemy colors. It was surrendering, and the man at the helm was a slave. He had no formal education, no military rank, yet overnight he had outwitted the Confederate Navy, using their own signals, their own ship, and their own rules. This escape is often told as a daring Civil War legend, but focusing only on the escape misses the real story. Because Robert Smalls didn't disappear into freedom. He stepped into history. And then, that vision would be deliberately dismantled, not by accident, but by design. To understand how that happened, we have to go back to the life that shaped him. Robert Smalls was born enslaved in Beaufort, South Carolina, on April 5, 1839. His mother, Lydia Polite, worked as a house servant for the McKee family. Though his early life was less brutal than many enslaved children's, his mother insisted he understand the true nature of bondage. She sent him into the fields, so he would never mistake comfort for freedom. At age 12, Smalls was sent to Charleston, where he worked a series of jobs, waiter, lamplighter, dock worker, before being hired onto ships. His intelligence, discipline, and natural leadership quickly stood out. Still, most of his wages were taken by his enslavers. By 19, he had married Hannah Jones. Together, they dreamed of freedom. Smalls attempted to buy his family's freedom, but the price, $800, was impossible, so he planned something greater. Smalls worked aboard a Confederate transport ship known as the Planter, which moved troops, weapons, and supplies through Charleston Harbor. The escape aboard the Planter was not spontaneous. It was the result of months of careful observation, memorization, and quiet courage. When the ship's white officers left for the night, as they often did, the daring plan began with the help of 2 of the ship's engineers, Alfred Gourdine and John Small. They quietly gathered their families. 16 people in total, including Small's wife and young children, slipped aboard the vessel, fully aware that failure meant death. Disguised in the captain's long coat and straw hat, Robert Smalls took the helm. In the darkness, he expertly navigated Confederate waters, signaling correctly at every checkpoint. One by one, the Planter passed 5 heavily armed forts, including Fort Sumter itself, without raising suspicion. As dawn broke, the ship reached the Union blockade. Smalls ordered a white bedsheet raised as a flag of surrender. Union sailors were stunned. An enslaved crew had delivered a Confederate ship, fully armed, into Union hands. Newspapers across the North called it the first trophy from Fort Sumter. Robert Smalls was instantly a national hero. After the escape, Smalls was appointed pilot and later commander of the USS Planter, becoming the first African American to captain a U.S. military vessel. He later served on the USS Keokuk, undertaking dangerous missions that included disarming Confederate mines he had once helped install. Smalls' bravery reached President Abraham Lincoln himself. He was credited with helping recruit nearly 5,000 black soldiers into the Union Army. Congress recognized the significance of what Robert Smalls had done. A prize bill was passed awarding money for the capture of the Planter. Smalls, listed as the ship's captain, received $1,500 while the remaining funds were divided among the crew. Decades later, long after the war had ended, Congress passed another bill. Signed by President William McKinley on June 5, 1900, it awarded Smalls $5,000, acknowledging the full value of the ship he had delivered to the Union. When the war ended, Smalls returned to Beaufort, and in a moment of profound justice, purchased the very home where he and his mother had once been enslaved. Reconstruction and the promise of a new South. Freedom did not end at the shoreline. During Reconstruction, Robert Smalls moved from the decks of ships into the halls of power. In 1868, he joined a convention rewriting South Carolina's state constitution. The document was revolutionary. It guaranteed free public education for all children and voting rights for all men, regardless of race. Its adoption allowed Congress to readmit South Carolina into the Union, on new terms rooted in equality. Smalls went on to serve in both the South Carolina House and Senate before being elected to the U.S. Congress in 1874. Over 5 terms, he fought for civil rights, education, and fair governance in a nation still resisting black citizenship. He helped establish the first public school for black children in Beaufort, served on the county school board, and played a key role in the creation of Parris Island Marine Base. Later, he was appointed Collector of Customs for the Port of Beaufort, a position he held for nearly 20 years and served as a Major General in the South Carolina Militia. Historian Henry Louis Gates Jr. describes Reconstruction as a time of unparalleled hope. But hope would not last. The Great Betrayal. In 1877, a political deal known as the Compromise of 1877 ended Reconstruction. Federal troops were withdrawn from the South. President Rutherford B. Hayes abandoned the promise to protect black rights. What followed was swift and devastating. Voter suppression, lynching, segregation, the progress built by men like Robert Smalls, Hiram Revels, and Blanche K. Bruce was systematically dismantled. The Civil Rights Act of 1875 was overturned. Jim Crow laws replaced democracy with terror. By the 1890s, the rollback was nearly complete. In 1895, Robert Smalls once again sat among delegates rewriting South Carolina's Constitution, but this time, the goal was exclusion. Poll taxes, literacy tests, and legal fraud were designed to strip black citizens of the vote. Smalls knew the outcome. Still, he spoke. He called for fair and honest elections and issued one of his most enduring truths. My race needs no special defense, for the past history of them in this country proves them to be the equal of any people anywhere. All they need is an equal chance in the battle of life. His warning was ignored. The Constitution passed. Black political power in South Carolina was effectively destroyed. Legacy and recognition. Robert Smalls died in 1915, long before the nation was ready to fully honor what he represented. For much of the 20th century, Reconstruction was misrepresented as a failure, but historians like Eric Foner and others have restored it as one of the most transformative periods in American history. Today, visitors to Beaufort can stand at the Reconstruction-era National Monument and see the home where Smalls lived as a free man. Nearby, a bronze bust honors his courage, one of the few monuments in the South dedicated to a black Reconstruction-era leader. More than a century later, a statue of Robert Smalls is planned to open July 4th, 2026 on the South Carolina State House grounds, making him the first individual black American honored there. Its presence is symbolic, rising in a space once dominated by monuments to the Confederacy and Jim Crow. Robert Smalls was a Civil War hero, an architect of public education, a lawmaker who fought for democracy even as it was being dismantled. His life reminds us that Reconstruction did not fail because black leaders were unprepared, but because their vision of equality was deliberately betrayed.